Hello and welcome to the unit devoted to Michèle Artigue and the instrumental approach in the ICMI Awardees Multimedia Online Resources Project, ICMI More. This module, numbered 0, will present some aspect of Michèle Artigue's career and background. Michèle Artigue received the 6th ICMI Felix Klein Award in 2013 for a lifetime achievement in mathematics education research. She grew up in a village near Tarbes in the southwest of France, where her mother was a primary school teacher. She managed to enter the lycée in Tarbes, which was quite unusual at that time for girls of a social background who usually finished their study in the local primary school. After the baccalaureate, she entered the classe préparatoire aux grandes écoles in the lycée Pierre de Fermat in Toulouse. This system is typical from the French system and it's very exclusive for best students. In 1965, she passed the very selective contest to enter the École Normale Supérieure Sèvres, the most prestigious tertiary mathematical education in France. Most of the classes were given in the Faculty of Sciences in Paris with professors like Henri Cartan, Gustave Choquet, Laurent Schwartz, some of the most famous mathematicians of the time. However, some of the courses were specific of Sèvres, and this is where she followed the algebra class by Pierre Samuel and met André Revuz, who will play an important role not only in her career, but also in the reform of new math and in the development of French didactics of mathematics. She passed the agrégation in 1968, again a very selective competitive exam for recruiting the best teachers. However, the oral exam was postponed to the following year as a result of the strike movement. And in 1969, Michèle Artigue was received first ex aequo at the agrégation. She also had the first of her 2 boys in 1967. The event of 1968 also resulted in the creation in 1969 of the first 3 institutes for research in mathematics education, the IREM, in Lyon, Paris, and Strasbourg. Michèle Artigue was recruited in the math department of the University Paris 7, straight after Sèvres, where she started her research in logics. She defended a doctorate in 1972 under the supervision of Daniel Lacombe. Besides her research in logic, she was also involved in the newly created IREM, whose director was André Revuz. The IREM was a unique place based on the collaborative work between university mathematician and secondary school teacher, partially detached by the Ministry of Education. In the IREM, Michèle Artigue met former friends from Sèvres like Jacqueline Robinet and Marie-Jeanne Perrin Glorian. An important mathematician in the IREM was François Colmès, a friend of Guy Brousseau, and also the son of a student fellow of Revuz at the École Normale Supérieure, Jean Colmès, who helped Brousseau's career in Bordeaux. François Colmès had started doing some teaching experimentation in relation with new mathematics in the primary school 50 kilometers south of Paris called L'Allemand II. At first, he inspired Brousseau, who created his Center of Observation and Research on the Teaching of Mathematics, the COREM, attached to the primary school Jules Michelet near Bordeaux on the model of L'Allemand. Régine Doady, author of the Tool-Object Dialectic, worked also with François Colmès for a while, and later with Marie-Jeanne Perrin Glorian in another experimental school in Montrouge, very near Paris. Like in Bordeaux, in the school L'Allemand II, thanks to the institutional support, there were more teachers and classes, which meant that teachers had some time allotted to research. André Revuz proposed Michèle Artigue and Jacqueline Robinet to officially join François Colmès in L'Allemand II to experiment the teaching of new mathematics. At first, they mostly implemented Brousseau's didactical engineries, like the one on rational and decimal number, the introduction of multiplication through counting of rectangle grids, or the method per geologia and probability, etc. But rapidly, they also started experimenting their own engineering and research. These were Michèle Artigue's first research works in didactics of mathematics. Until the end of the 70s, her research interest was mostly about primary school. Yet, in her teaching at university, she also had started a collaboration with didacticians of physics like Laurence Viennot and Edith Saltiel, and they worked on the respective status of representations in mathematics and physics. In 1979, they created an experimental section in the University of Paris set, a new project under the umbrella of the IREM. In this section, the interdisciplinary work showed that a problematic subject for the cooperation between mathematicians and physicists was a notion of differential, and it became part of a bigger project on both integral and differential processes supported by the French National Center for Scientific Research, the CNRS, in collaboration with a team in Grenoble led by Marc Legrand. At the time, Michèle also had a passion for mountaineering. She spent her holidays in the Pyrenees Mountains and did rock climbing in Fontainebleau every weekend when she was in Paris with a group of friends. Adrien Douady, Régine's husband, a brilliant mathematician specialist of dynamical system, joined this group. At the time, he was trying to introduce his third year students to the idea of qualitative study of differential equation and shared his view with Michèle Artigue. She discovered through him this domain and got inspired in her own research. Moreover, with the help of Adrien's sister, Véronique Gautheron, they used one of the first computer drawing tables in order to draw phase portraits and explore the behavior of autonomous dynamical system. Calculator and computer were also used in the experimental section at the University of Paris 7, which was very innovative at the time. The research on the qualitative study of differential equation was developed in collaboration with Marc Rogalski, who led an experimental section in Lille, in France. The didactical engineering they designed was reproduced during 10 years and was the object of several publications. From her first contact with Brousseau's work, Michèle Artigue had discovered the theory of situation and got interested in the difficult issue of reproducibility of didactical engineering. Again, with her work on differential equation, she tackled the subject of diffusion and generalization of research work. It was quite obvious that this experimental teaching could not be generalized easily to more traditional context. In her doctorat d'état thesis, defended in 1984 under the supervision of André Revuz, with Hans Freudenthal, Gérard Vergniaud and Adrien Douady among others in her jury, Michèle Artigue built a model inspired from her study of dynamical system to question the issue of reproducibility of didactical situation. A conclusion opened a new way of approaching the issue of diffusion of didactical engineering. This doctorate and a publication in the French journal Recherche en didactique des mathématiques, RDM, made her reputation as a specialist on this subject. Moreover, she gave 2 major courses on this matter at 2 French summer schools, first in 1989 and later in 2009. These were references on the notion of didactical engineering. But at the international level, Michèle Artigue is usually more famous for her contribution to the use of technology in the teaching of mathematics. After her first experience with technology in the preceding project, she worked with a junior high school teacher, Jacqueline Belloc, and used technology in order to help a group of 8th graders in serious difficulty. In France, the government had set up a program in 1985 named Computer for All, Informatique pour tous, and the school was equipped with a network of Thomson computers and the software Euclids based on Logo. Michèle Artigue began to discover through this experience the complexity of the work of the teacher in computer environments. Following these first experiences, in the early 1990s, she was asked by the Ministry of Education to join a group of teachers and experts in technology and computer algebra system, CAS. That was reflecting on the changing that would be necessary if CAS entered the secondary education. In this research, she collaborated in particular with her PhD students, Mahabou Blanchard, and also with Jean-Baptiste Lagrange. It is through this research and some others like Maria Maspeskian and Bat Defoy doctorates, and with a collaboration with Luc Trouche and the research team in Montpellier led by Dominique Guin, that Michèle Artigue developed a major works on the instrumental approach. I'll let you discover all this in detail in the next module of this unit, which is entirely devoted to this part of her career. Michèle Artigue herself will develop the different issues and various stages of her construction in the first modules. Michèle Artigue also had a special interest for the history and epistemology of mathematics. She collaborated with Jean-Luc Verlet, a mathematician with a wide culture in history and a substantial personal library, who was very active in the IREM. Together, they created a course in the Master of Mathematics on a joint historical and epistemological approach. She used some historical approach in all her didactical research work. In 1991, she published in RDM an article entitled Epistemology and Didactics, which became the reference to frame the relation between history of mathematics and research in didactics of mathematics. She also collaborated with Michel Serfati. He was a teacher in a class préparatoire in Paris and never had a university position, although he had 2 doctorates, one in math and one in epistemology. And he created a seminar on epistemology in the IREM. Together with Michèle Artigue, they supervised 2 doctorates, one of Caroline Bardini on symbolism in algebra and one of Véronique Batty on higher arithmetics. Michèle Artigue also worked often on different issues related to transition between different educational systems. This part of her work began when she supervised Brigitte Grujon's doctorate on the transition between vocational and general education. Defended in 1995, this doctorate was the occasion to apply some new tools from the anthropological theory of didactic, ATD, by Yves Chevalard. After this innovative work, Michèle Artigue then encouraged 3 other PhD students to use similar approaches in different contexts. Frédéric Pralon, Analia Berger, and Rida Najjar for understanding difficulties of secondary-tertiary transition. Michèle Artigue became full professor in 1991 in the Teachers Training Institute, EUFM in Reims. In 1999, she was appointed in the University of Paris 7, where she was successively head of the IREM, then of the Master of Didactics, and finally of the Doctoral School of History and Epistemology and Didactics. In 2010, she became emeritus professor. She played a major role in the French community, but also at a more international level. She was vice president of ICMI from 1999 until 2006, then president from 2007 until 2009, and finally member ex officio until 2011. Thus, she served in the executive committee of ICMI for 14 years, most of the time with Bernard Hodgson as Secretary General, with whom she made an emblematic duo, making a new turn in the history of the Commission. She was the first researcher in mathematics education to become president and also the first woman to occupy this responsibility. Moreover, she represented ICMI in the International Mathematics Union IMU program of the International Cooperation, the Developing Countries Strategy Group. She also built relationship with UNESCO for both the IMU and ICMI, which has given rise to authoring the document Challenges in Basic Mathematics Education, published in several languages by UNESCO. She also served as ICMI liaison officer for the development and launching of the Capacity and Network Project CAMP. Our international cooperation activity behind ICMI has ranged from advising several European projects on inquiry-based education to collaborating in program development with researchers in Spain, Brazil, Colombia, Argentina. In 2015, she was awarded the Luis Santalo Medal by the Inter-American Society of Mathematics Education, ICMI, for her support in developing mathematics education in Latin America. More recently, she has been involved in several projects trying to overcome the fragmentation of the field of mathematics education by building connections between theoretical framework and research practices. This has been achieved mainly in the frame of the European Network of Excellence Kaleidoscope and then the European project REMATH, and within an international group that emerged from the 5th Conference of European Research in Mathematics Education, CERMI 5. A special issue of the International Journal Educational Studies in Mathematics and a book in the Math Education series of Springer have been published as a result of this collaborative work. Like she said in an interview made by Alexander Karp for the book Leaders in Mathematics Education, Experience and Vision, published by Springer in 2014, I have the impression that my ICMI responsibility made me more and more sensitive to the necessity of establishing such connections because I discovered, being vice president and then president of ICMI, up to what point the fragmentation of the field is an obstacle to make clear to people, particularly those outside the field, what has been achieved, what we exactly know in math education and how it can serve the cause of practice to express our knowledge in a way that is scientifically consistent and widely accessible. Michèle Artigue, as Vice President of ICMI, played a major role in the establishment of the ICMI Awards, and she was the first president of the award committee. ICMI Amor project is one attempt to fulfill a claim for fighting against the fragmentation and make the field of mathematics education more accessible. You can now proceed to Module 1 of Michèle Artigue's unit devoted to the instrumental approach. Thank you for your attention.